Hello everyone, I am back today with another video. This is going to be the first round of the 2022 to 2023 winter tournament on Strategus, and I have been matched in the first round against Karaiskakis. He doesn't play very much on Strategus, but many of you might recognize him from Stratego.com, where he was a very good player, often above 900 elo, and usually, I believe, pretty level or perhaps a bit better than me, I would say in most cases. I think we split our games pretty evenly from what I can recall from playing him on the old website, but it's been so long I don't really suspect that'll have much bearing on our game here today. I haven't been playing very much. This is probably the first tournament game I played in quite a while, so that's also why I have not recorded in quite a bit. So I will be a bit rusty, perhaps a little bit off my game, but we'll go ahead and just kind of see how this plays out. And that was a misclick. I did not mean to do that, but it's okay. I'll just scout that on the next turn. So he's going to take my sergeant, I'll take his lieutenant. I imagine he has something to take my captain with here. Okay, then I will advance further. I imagine he can kill me now. Okay, let me scout this, because I feel like that could be a good piece. Oh, just a sergeant, okay. I know he did move that back when I attacked my captain, but I figured that was probably a tactic to get me to move my captain next to that piece eventually. This setup is one that I've just kind of used sporadically in all the games I've played for quite a while. I'll go ahead, I'm going to move over and hit that sergeant. I assume he'll have a good piece here, but it's worth it to take it, get that sergeant back, and then get some info here. Yeah, so this setup, I don't really remember what I was thinking when I made it. It's not like a bad setup, I would say, but it's just not one that I'm probably had like a greater purpose behind, but I figured just to roll with it for this game since it's been quite a while since I've made a new setup or really played a serious game, I guess. And another misclick. I guess one of the most difficult things about getting back into the game is to click the right amount of spaces or something like that. So since he knows this is a scout, I'm just going to go ahead and scout this piece. I don't think it's anything good, but whatever. Yeah, okay. So, Lieutenant and Colonel. Alright, so I think I'm going to leave things like that. I'm going to go ahead and probably attack on this left side. So a bit of the danger I could run into is if I go down to captains, so it would be, I guess, less than ideal. But in this case, it looks like I'll get a major for it, whether or not I end up losing my colonel or not. I wouldn't be surprised if I do, but I also wouldn't be surprised if I don't. Interesting, so I'll go a bit further. I think if he had a real piece here, he would have just retreated the major back. He might move out, yeah. So, I'll have to decide what I want to do now. Okay. That's less than ideal, but I'm going to move up with the general. Obviously, it's not really good for me if he hits it, but I'm just trying to scare the piece away, and maybe he'll, like, retreat it to be guarded by this piece. Okay. I'm going to do that, and then hopefully move the general over if he lets me. I still think my colonel is in a precarious situation up there. Okay, so him moving this piece over, I was going to think to myself, okay, if he's using both of these pieces, let's say he was going to try to trap my colonel with this piece and this piece, him moving this piece over makes me think he's trying to pretend this is not a good piece, because he moved this over, and then he moved that over. But now this complicates things a little bit. I'm just generally not sure what to do. I think if he gave me the choice between these two pieces, I would avoid this one and probably hit this one, actually. But it's pretty tricky to think about, okay, if he had sergeant, major, lieutenant, or no, lieutenant, yeah, that was lieutenant right here. So sergeant, lieutenant, major, would you put your power piece like here, or like where would you put it? Because he had a scout here. So you're going to do major, scout, power piece, or is it going to be sergeant, major, power piece? I think major, scout, power piece makes more sense because you can kind of fly the scout down if needed and then give your major protection. At least I think I would more commonly build a setup that way, personally. So I could all be thinking this completely wrong here, but I'm going to probably avoid that one, and I guess I'll move up here. So we'll see what happens. If he takes it, then oh well, I got a major, he's up some captains, and I'll figure it out. He'll be at an advantage, no doubt, but we'll see. The only reason I was questioning that move is him moving over with this piece made me think he was pretending this wasn't a good piece, which means it could actually be a good piece if that's what he's trying to pretend. Okay, that was yet again less than ideal, but at least my colonel is probably safe, so I'm going to go ahead and retreat the general back. I'm not sure if that makes my spy too obvious, but I might be able to at least pretend that the sergeant could be a possible spy as well. So I'm going to want to go ahead and retreat with the colonel. Just really not risk any more on that side, especially with all the info I've given. I don't think it's wise to keep pressing. So we know that's not a good piece. It could be this or this one. This piece came from here. This piece came from here. I probably want to avoid two-squaring myself with this piece. Okay, so he's going to act like he really wants to two-square my colonel, so I guess I will avoid that. Okay, so I'm going to move this over to make way for my colonel to retreat to both the general and the spy. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets his second piece here involved to come chase me down, but I guess we'll see. I'm really displeased that I gave up my general information like that so easily. That was probably a bit of a setup flaw or being a little bit overzealous with my colonel, unfortunately. Okay, so he's probably going to move down, which is just unfortunate, and I have to make a decision, yeah. Okay, so I was thinking, well, this piece came from here, and this piece came from here. So, one of three things, I guess. This could be a general, in which case he's going to immediately take my colonel, and then want to trade after that. Or, it could be a marshal, in which case he'll probably do nothing. Or it could just be a garbage piece trying to figure out my info. And probably the most logical reason it could be like a trash piece is for him coming down and trying to see, I guess, like, if I'm secure with my colonel being here. So, in other words, like, is there a piece here? In other words, the spy that's guarding the colonel. And basically, if I leave my colonel here, he kind of gets a clue that that is the case. So I could remedy that by moving, say, the major over and kind of giving him, like, oh, it could be either one of these. But then also, if it's the general, then he just runs through all of it, and that's even worse. I was thinking like, out of this piece and this piece, that was more likely to be the power piece, but he was also being, like, very overly obvious with it, like, trying to two-square my colonel excessively. So I'm not sure if I really trust that anymore. But I don't think I can really justify hitting this piece with anything here. So I think I'm going to move the lieutenant back. And if it's his general, that's the worst case scenario. Like, I'm okay, except if this piece is his general. Yeah, okay. Well, there's that. So since I know it's not a general, I'm going to move back up with the colonel, or the lieutenant, excuse me, and I'll probably hit this piece. The reason I moved down with my lieutenant was I was figuring if that's his general and he hits the colonel, I don't want to give him both pieces. But I feel fine doing that now because I know it's not the general. Except for the fact that he knows this is my spy with almost perfect certainty now. That went okay. Okay, so I think actually his colonel's here, if I remember correctly. I kind of forgot that this side even existed. And he had a lieutenant somewhere back in here. I think it might have been this one. I don't really remember. I remember this piece ran away from my colonel, so I'm totally fine. Or didn't run away, but didn't attack my colonel. So I am totally fine with going after it. Okay, so he's going to let me 2-square this piece. Interesting. So I'm not sure if that tells me it's a good piece or not. Maybe it's a scout or something. I wouldn't be surprised. Okay, so he's kind of trapped his piece there, so I'm going to use the extra moves I have to mess around with this piece a bit. I don't want to be too aggressive with my colonel, though, and kind of leave the spy exposed. I guess I'll go ahead and hit this. Yeah, okay, scout, kind of figured. Okay, so then we have a captain. So I'm going to go up with my colonel, and I'm pretty sure this is a good piece, but I'm going to just chase these and see what happens, I guess. Interesting. I don't think it's actually the worst thing for me to hit the captain and get info if one of these pieces moves, maybe. Okay, let me think about this. So first of all, this piece was being like overly obvious about chasing my colonel. Secondly, it makes sense here for me to hit this captain. That's a logical play, because I'm down a captain, or 2 captains actually, and if I'm seeking for info, being up a major, and clearly by plunging my colonel into his setup, I'm seeking information of some sort, it seems. And that kind of is my purpose. So I'm almost wondering if this is certainly his good piece, and maybe this is a bluff. So it's a bit risky, and if this is a good piece, then I either 1, gave up a free captain plus some other pieces, or, well, 2, I'll be down a colonel, but I'm going to hit this. Yeah, okay, good. So that was another bluff, as I ended up reasoning that it would be. I just didn't think it made sense for him to guard a captain, which I would reasonably be expected to perhaps hit for info with nothing. That didn't really make sense to me, especially when he moved that piece up. I really need to get some of these sergeants and scouts involved over here because I want to be testing these pieces that come down and not just pray that it's not the general or marshal or whatever. So I'd like more security there. He seems to thankfully be taking a less aggressive approach for now, perhaps because I've been calling several of his bluffs, I guess. So that's a bit comforting, maybe. That's a good sign, because I don't want him to attack anymore. Although he's getting more pieces involved, I kind of hope he doesn't become aggressive with them, although it appears he is. So when he moves this down, I'm going to move over to scout it. Okay, so he's not going to even do that. Okay, so then if he moves this over, I'll move over with the colonel and I'll scout that. And we'll just go from there. But having the scout here can become valuable now. Okay, so I'm probably going to want to leave it like that, but I'm going to actually retreat 1 down, just to give me more time to react after I scout a piece, if he does give me the opportunity to scout it. Okay, I'm thinking the next piece that he comes up in this lane with is going to be a bluff because he knows I have a scout here, or likely a scouting piece of some sort, so it probably makes more sense for him to come with a bluff to make me waste a scout. In that case, I might call that. But for now, let's go ahead and advance on the right side a little bit. Okay, so he's going to take my captain, or attack my captain, rather. I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, that's the colonel, that's the lieutenant. I could be wrong about that, though. Pretty sure that's the colonel because I attacked the sergeant with my captain and he moved up with it, and I don't think he did anything else after that. So I'm going to move over like that. And if he moves down, I think I'm going to take this piece. I don't believe this to be a good piece. Yeah. So as I figured, he was going to use that kind of as a tool to block the info of this piece, which is the one that he moved up from here. So that's potentially not a comforting sign. Okay. I'm going to move back with the colonel because there's all sorts of tricky situations, like he moves down. Okay, so he's actually going to scout that. I was figuring, oh, well, let's see, if I move the scout over, then I can just retreat with my colonel and I have access to the spy. But then I realized, because he could scout, and he actually did have a scout there. It's a 7th scout. So the good news is he only has one more scout. But the bad news is that I have no idea what this piece is, and I don't think I can find out immediately. And he might just come down and kind of like plunge in my setup with it. So I'm going to at least set it up that I can respond no matter what, I think. Okay, so I'm forced to move over in case that's the general. I suspect he's going to move down though, which is obviously not ideal in any way, but okay, I'm going to move like that. I'm going to move over with the spy. Try to bluff this maybe as more of the spy. I hope he doesn't move down, because that'll just be tricky. I'm thinking this probably isn't the general. I think he would have seized his opportunity already if it was. But I can really only be so confident with something like that. Okay. Yeah, if I move my general down, then my colonel's kind of trapped, so I'm going to probably move like that again. But what that does give me the opportunity to do is maybe shuffle out my colonel at least. Some good effect there. I think I'm going to hit this piece. I mean, I think I'm thinking this is more of a good piece. I could be completely wrong about that, and I probably am. And my luck of calling his bluffs is probably going to run out, but I want to hit this. Okay. Well, that was the worst case scenario, but I think I had to do that. I was thinking that was the good piece, and I had to make a play forward or else he could come down and take my colonel. Okay. Yeah, so that's pretty far from ideal, most certainly. I'm going to come up with this major, I guess. I would have much rather lost a colonel than to lose the general, but that's how it goes, I suppose. Hope that's not a colonel. That would be really sad. I don't think it is, right? Do I know that piece? I think that's the captain. Yeah, that's the captain, I think. Yeah. Anyway, okay. Okay, that's probably a colonel, which is sad, but it's fine. Like, I'm up a major, so, like, oh well, I guess. At least I got a captain for it before he kills it. Yeah, okay. So I'm down a general and a captain, up a lieutenant, up a minor, down a sergeant. And really, he just played me well by coming down with the minor that came from here, I believe, that I thought was more likely to be the good piece. Which is, again, just rather unfortunate, I think. But he played that well, and my luck of calling his bluffs and trying to reason through things did run out eventually, as probably we could only expect it to. So definitely this will be a more than challenging game to come back from, I think, deficit-wise. Because I'm not really up anything until we get to lieutenants, and he's got 2 pieces on me. The only thing I can hope is to use info. He doesn't. I know his colonel and I know his marshal, which I suppose is useful, but it's not good enough because I don't even know his general or his majors. Okay, and he also pretty much knows my spy with quite a lot of certainty, I'm having to assume here. Okay, so we know marshal, colonel, I think lieutenant, because he hit my captain with a scout, and I think he moved that piece up. So, it might be worthwhile to just kind of park my scout up here and see if I can snipe anything useful over here. Okay. I'm definitely going to want to fortify this left side. He doesn't know this captain, which is good. Okay, so marshal, two of these pieces came, these two came from the front row, that was the second row. So, these two I could be safe at advancing my major against. I'm not so sure about this one. But, alas, I'll come up with my major anyway, because I don't really have much of a choice. Okay. So we've got colonel here. Let me see what comes up if I, or what happens if I come up with my colonel. I would expect his general to be guarding this side. Okay, so I'll take that lieutenant. I think that's worth it to trade colonels. Because that was my unknown colonel in his unknown piece, but he can't, well, he would not like to give me a major at this point, because then that would mean I have a piece up that kind of interrupts his being up two pieces, being general captain, because if I'm up a major, then he's only up one piece, and then we can compare the captains and lieutenants. But right now, if we trade everything, his general and captain just traps all of my pieces, and if I have a major advantage, that's not the case anymore. So, I'm okay with trading that because I still have majors that I can potentially get up or get captains with, and my majors are unknown at this point. So that's useful, I think, in a certain regard. At some point, though, I'm going to want to probably try to snag a major with my marshal, if I can. Getting a captain would be the best thing that could happen, but I don't think I'll be so fortunate to get a captain with my major. This is probably a major. I think that's probably the general that he was guarding pieces with. Because I don't think he would be so callous with his general to just advance against a bunch of things with it. So this is probably a major trade. Interesting. I don't mind advancing with my major. Maybe making him a bit uncertain and making him waste a piece before we trade. Let's see what happens if I do that. Okay. So I'll go ahead and retreat then. So there's a bit of a question now of, do I advance? Well, if I advance with my marshal and try to get a major, I'm likely going to find a trash piece. But at the same time, if I advance with my majors, we might just trade everything. This is probably a major because he knows this captain. Interesting. So he was actually going to allow me to attack that piece. So I'm going to go ahead and retreat. If he moves up, then I'm going to do this. And then I'll move up with my scout. Yeah. I have to 2-square that actually for now. But probably general. We know that's the marshal. These two are major and below. by extension of that. I don't really have anything else that I know about them. I wouldn't be shocked if he just plows down my center with his marshal, but I think to a certain extent I also would be, because that would be unnecessary. Like, this is a high probability of being the spy, but I don't know if I'm him if I unilaterally assume that either. So I guess we'll see. Okay, so I'm assuming this is just a major trade, especially because I'm bluffing marshal in the center. But I think I also have to, because then he's going to cause all sorts of trouble by attacking my captain. So I'll trade that. So what I don't want to do is trade the third major. That would be bad, because then only my marshal can get a captain back. And he's also up captain, so that's not good. Okay, so he's going to retreat back with his marshal then. Or back behind the lake, I guess. So do that. Okay. I'm going to put that captain behind the major. Okay. I'm not sure what he's planning right now. Again, I don't know if he's just gonna like plow through the center, which is like somewhat justified, I guess, but I guess not. Okay. All right. I think my flag is unfortunately a bit obvious at this point, but I don't think there's anything I can really do about that. I don't really see any way that I can advance the game at this point, especially with my only major being sort of tied down to the center defending it. So at this stage I'm probably going to resort to a bit of shuffling right now. He doesn't actually know this is my major, which is kind of remarkable to think about, I guess. Okay. Wonder what his plan is here then. I'm going to move up with that just in case he tries to move up with his marshal and think he's going to force my bluff marshal here out of the way. Okay. Here's our unknown piece then. Marshal General. Kind of know that. Okay. Yeah, not much happening here. We're just kind of shuffling. I'm wary of these two pieces because I fear his major. Okay, I'll take that. Oh, that's really not good at all. I did not think that was going to be his major. Okay, so I had misplaced fear in these two pieces, and it should have been placed in this one being the major, which of course it was. So that's no good. I'm pretty sure that completely just loses the game, basically. So I think my sort of remedy for now is to charge up the right side with my major. Oh yeah, that's right, I don't have a spy anymore. Oh well, can't really do anything about that. Yeah, this game is definitely one for him, but I'll go ahead and play it out with the few pieces I have, probably just the major and the marshal, I think, at this point. Okay. Maybe I'll try to bluff this lieutenant as my marshal. Kind of chase his major around if I can. Ooh, okay. So I guess I'm going to try to see what happens if I can mess with his general a little bit, maybe. Just move like that, just to make sure I can two-square him. If he moves over, then I'll move up and kind of trap his general there, and then move with my major to hopefully just take pieces if his general's trapped. If he doesn't, I'll chase him back and, I don't know, find out where the spy is. Probably nothing useful, but it's fine. Again, he doesn't actually know that this is the major, so... what I'll probably end up doing is, if he leaves it there, I'm assuming that's the spy, I'll probably move around. Try to get the spy when he hits me, and then I'll move up with the major. He might move his general out of the way. Huh. Okay, so let me try this, I guess. Just see what sort of headway I can make, I guess. Okay, that's not the worst thing that could have happened. I can probably advance with my major now. Fair enough, okay. Oh, I should have gone with the marshal. Oh, because now I'm not going to be able to escape it. Oh, I should have... That's a bad mistake. I should have gone up with the marshal when I had the chance. That was a very unfortunate mistake, I have to say. Okay, well, he's giving me a chance anyway at the moment. So I guess I'll see if I can use that. The only problem is if this fails, then I don't have any recourse of lottoing my major, but oh well. See what he does here. Oh, that is really, really unfortunate. So, now knowing that he was going to move in that way, I should have just lotted with my major when I had the chance, but now that he's moved there, the game's over, because now my major's trapped, and all I have is to shuffle my marshal. I guess I'll just go ahead and shuffle my marshal. I don't really have anything else to do, but whatever. I mean, my flag's pretty obvious, so it probably won't be too challenging for him, but that's fine. Well, he knows that's a moving piece. I don't think he knows it's a lieutenant, but I guess feel free to just hit it like that. That's his major, if I do recall correctly. Oh, I'm gonna want to make it very clear that I'm gonna be on this side. If I stay on this side, he might think my flag is on this side, which means he might waste minors and take too long before the game ends to get my flag. That's about my only hope at this point. He's kind of letting me lotto down the side here, so I guess that probably lets me know I wouldn't have accomplished much with my major anyway. Alright, so at this point I'm just waiting for him to win the game, basically. So here comes his minor then. Alright, so he definitely looks on track to win this game here, by probably just attacking my flag with the minor. That captain's moved, and he actually knows that captain, so he really only has two tripod possibilities here, which the other could be the lieutenant. But he's of course going to go for the more obvious one first, as anyone would, and that will be it, and he'll win the game there. Alright, tell him GG. So I think he played, he played quite well, and he put me in a position where I had too much information given on this side, and that really led to a really precarious situation that I wasn't able to handle, ultimately, even though I called a few bluffs of his. And I think ultimately that just led to me not being able to come back after I'd lost that material. So he played very well, and I think I gave up too much info. And also I misjudged his major, although I couldn't have really done anything about that anyway, which was unfortunate. But overall, I think I'm not too disappointed with that performance, but I will hopefully look to get back on track in round 2, which will be in the next 1 to 2 weeks. And I suppose that I will see you all then.